Hi, this is Britta LaFont from BrittaLaFont.com. Today we're talking about Elizabeth George's Putting on a Gentle and Quiet Spirit, Lesson 19. We're like 75% of the way finished with this Bible study, and that is really astonishing to me. It's gone by very quickly. Today we're talking about living in the shadow of eternity. And actually last week I said that we needed to be sure that we kept an eternal perspective, and that in doing that it would help us to keep our eyes on Jesus and be able to grow in our righteousness, but also to deal with the difficulties that we experience in everyday living. That is living in the shadow of eternity. That's what our lesson is about today. It's 1 Peter 4, 7 through 11. So I'm going to go ahead and read that right now. But the end of all things is at hand. Therefore, be serious and watchful in your prayers, and above all things have fervent love for one another. For love will cover a multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another without grumbling, and as each one has received a gift, minister it to one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. If anyone speaks, let him speak as the oracles of God. If anyone ministers, let him do it as with the ability which God supplies, that in all things God may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom belong the glory and dominion forever and ever. Basically, I think she has boiled this down to kind of two main points, and they both stem out of the same one idea. The idea that since we are not of this world, and that again is keeping that eternal perspective, Peter says, because the end of all things is at hand, and that we should be serious and watchful. And then the two ideas come out of that. Given that we are not of this world, and that this world will come to an end, and that we are on the cusp of eternity now that we belong to Jesus, since we are not of this world, the two things: have a fervent love for others, the believers is what Peter talks about, and also to use your gifts to glorify God. So we talked about this at my house this week about what a fervent love is. A fervent love being bubbling and overflowing, just something that cannot be contained, and that kind of love, Peter says, will cover a multitude of sins. And I know I've shared this before, but I think it was Thomas Aquinas who said that that the opposite of pride would be generosity. That's one of the opposites of pride, is generosity towards others, and of course humility as well. But that generosity towards others, that love that gets provoked in us out of our love, out of the love that's been deposited in us through our relationship with Jesus, that generosity towards others covers a multitude of sins. And so, Peter is saying that while we're here on this earth, it's really critical that we keep an eye on eternity, keeping that in mind, that we have this fervent love, that would drive all of our interactions with other believers. That would drive us to go beyond ourselves, beyond what we think our limits are in terms of patience, in terms of service, and also kind of help us to build our priorities, based on love rather than self-interest. The other thing being to use your gifts for God. So she kind of gives us the two lists where you can find a list of gifts. Let me see. One is Romans 12, 3 through 8, and the other is 1 Corinthians 12, 4 through 10. These are the classic lists of the gifts that are given, some as apostles, some as teachers. Basically, God gives us all abilities, and this goes way back to the Old Testament when they were building the ark. Noah was given the ability to be this amazing builder when he had probably never seen a boat. In the tabernacle, God gifted people with artistic ability in order to be able to create this tabernacle according to his specifications. And in the same way, God gives us supernaturally gifts that we would not have of our own volition, and of our, we would not have had in our own way. And that these gifts shouldn't be used or squandered in a worldly way, but that we should use them to edify and build up the church. And so, it's kind of one of those things that you should maybe prayerfully consider. What are your gifts? Not just the things that you like to do, but the things that you see that you have an aptitude for, or maybe things that other people see that you have an aptitude for. My father is a natural leader, and Every church that we ever went to, he always got stuck in a leadership position, even when he said, there is no way I'm going to be a leader at this church. I have too many things going on at work. Well, he would get roped in no matter what because he just exuded that leadership. And my poor husband is the same way. He is just unable to dodge it. People will seek him out even if he's not in charge of a project and ask him what's going on and how to get it done. When God gives you that ability, you need to use it for his church and to build up other believers. And when you do that, you really do glorify God, which means reflecting his image here on earth. And so anyway, I would encourage you to start thinking about that. Visit those two passages in Romans and in 1 Corinthians. And I'll go ahead on my website, and I'll list them out on the post. And you can have a look at them. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments if you have any idea of what your spiritual gifting is. And it would be great to hear from you. One of the gifts that I have tested out, if you take any of those spiritual gifts inventories, is teaching. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. Also prophecy, which means speaking the word of God and the desire that the word of God be spoken accurately by others. And I definitely have that. Can't dodge that. God puts that strong in my heart. And so I feel very blessed that I'm able to use both of those gifts, both at my local church and also here online. So I'm very thankful that God provides me that opportunity, and my husband supports me in that way, and my children too. So I hope the very same thing for you. So if you don't know what your gifts are, then seek it out. Seek God in prayer. Ask your friends. Try some things out at church and see where where you fit in, and you'll grow in those gifts. And definitely, if you know what your gifts are, don't dodge it. You need to use that to build up the church and to honor the Lord, because he gave it to you for a purpose, and not just for your purposes, but also for his. So I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks so much. Bye.